Well, thanks everyone for joining us on this video today that goes along with the report that we sent you as well. And we wanted to share with you some information from our listening sessions that we conducted. These were 100 listening sessions that we performed with entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial service organizations within Rochester between November 2019 and March 2020. The purpose of these listening sessions had really three main goals. The first was to validate Collider's pilot Ecosystem Navigator program. So this was a program to empower 3 different individuals in the Rochester entrepreneurial ecosystem to serve as community connectors, or what we're calling ecosystem navigators, in a culturally competent manner. So what these navigators would do is they'd meet with entrepreneurs within the Rochester community, understand where that individual is on a personal and professional level, and be able to rapidly connect them into whatever resource they needed next for development of their business. The second purpose of these listening sessions were really to understand gaps and assets in the Rochester entrepreneurial ecosystem, especially in terms of diversity and inclusion. And the third real purpose of these listening sessions was to understand how, where, and if Rochester entrepreneurs were using business development resources within the community. In these interviews, we talked with 59 different entrepreneurs and 41 individuals working within entrepreneurial service organizations in Rochester. And we were also very intentional to reach out to individuals working in a variety of different industries. It's important to note that this study was not meant to be an extensive gaps and assets analysis of the Rochester entrepreneurial ecosystem. Instead, it was meant to be a snapshot of the community through the eyes of these 100 individuals at this particular point in time. From these conversations, 5 major themes emerged that these 100 individuals view as the state of the entrepreneurial community in Rochester at this moment. The first major theme was that the ecosystem has a variety of community connectors that people use to link in to various business development resources in the community. The second most common theme was that multiple barriers exist in the ecosystem that are impeding the development of a fully inclusive, diverse, and equitable ecosystem. The third most common theme was that barriers exist in the ecosystem that are slowing down its growth. The fourth most common theme was that Mayo Clinic has a complicated relationship with the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And the fifth most common theme was that Rochester entrepreneurs have gaps in their business knowledge and are asking for more entrepreneurial education resources and access to these resources. So we wanted to take a few minutes to walk you through some of these themes. We know you have this report in front of you, but we just wanted to break down some of the major things that we heard within these interviews. So if we take a look at theme 1, the first most common thing that we heard was that the Rochester ecosystem has what we're calling community connectors, and that people are accessing these people to link up with business development resources within the community. And it's important to note in this instance, a community connector, they're not a business consultant, they're more just an individual, an organization, or an informal network that's connecting people and informing them of business development resources or tools within the community. So as I said, community connectors were the most common theme heard within this report. We heard community connectors mentioned 114 different times from 44 different individuals within these listening sessions that Rochester entrepreneurs were using to connect in with business development resources within the community. In contrast to being connected into the community through community connectors, we also heard multiple instances of individuals not being connected into the ecosystem, and this actually impeding the growth of their business. We heard this through explicit statements where the individual knew that there was a limitation to their personal network or what they knew existed in the community, and this was limiting their growth. Or we either heard this through implicit mentions where the entrepreneur wasn't able to take that next step in their business because they were unable to make some sort of connection. So overall, things that we heard throughout these listening sessions greatly supported the development and launch of a pilot Ecosystem Navigator program. It suggests that people are already used to using community connectors, or what we're calling navigators, in the ecosystem. But it's also suggesting that many people are not connected in to the ecosystem, further validating the important role that these navigators could play in connecting more people in and helping to accelerate their business and making them aware of resources available to them in the community. The second most common theme were instances we heard through the eyes of these 100 individuals that barriers exist in the entrepreneurial ecosystem that are impeding the development of a fully inclusive, diverse, and equitable entrepreneurial ecosystem here in Rochester. Some specific instances of these barriers that individuals mentioned included gaps in equitable systems development, miscommunications within the ecosystem, lack of diversity, which included both individuals in the ecosystem as well as industry, and various forms of gender discrimination. So we encourage you to read more about these gaps in more depth in our report. So at Collider, we hope that bringing to light some of these facts really helps to open up lines of communication in our ecosystem to help develop a more diverse, inclusive, and equitable system. The third theme we heard in these listening sessions was that multiple barriers exist in the ecosystem that are slowing down its growth. Examples of these barriers included the presence of Mayo Clinic in the ecosystem, limited workforce, and weak connection to students. So some of these barriers have very deep cultural roots in the community, and others, such as a weak connection of students, offer a great opportunity to leverage something in the community to really cement the future of our startup ecosystem and build upon our workforce. The fourth most common theme was that Mayo Clinic has a complicated relationship with the entrepreneurial ecosystem. We heard multiple instances where Mayo Clinic holds back growth of the ecosystem, and we heard multiple instances where Mayo Clinic greatly accelerates growth of the ecosystem. There was a pretty clear breakdown between individuals working at Mayo Clinic or in a Mayo Clinic startup thinking that Mayo Clinic accelerated growth of the ecosystem, where individuals that did not work at Mayo Clinic felt that the presence of the clinic in the community held back growth of the ecosystem. And finally, the fifth most common theme we heard throughout these listening sessions were that gaps exist in business education knowledge in the entrepreneurial community here in Rochester, but entrepreneurs are asking for more business education resources to help them fill these gaps. And again, we would refer you back to the report that goes along with this video for more information about these gaps in business education, but really we heard these asks for more entrepreneurial education across all genders and across all races in Rochester. So it was a very common need and theme in our entrepreneurial ecosystem here. So at Collider, we find this gap as a real opportunity, an exciting opportunity to co-create more education and targeted education for our entrepreneurs in Rochester to help them along their business journey. And as a final section in this report, we outlined various business development resources in Rochester from the idea stage through the mature stage of business development. I think it's important to note that we know there are more business development resources present in Rochester, that these are the resources and tools that the entrepreneurs we listened to said that they used in the community at these various stages of business development. So again, we'd refer you to our report to learn more about these resources. So overall, these listening sessions uncovered different gaps and different assets in the ecosystem. We know that we as Collider cannot solve all of the gaps that we heard, and we believe that everyone in the ecosystem has a role to play in this process. The first would be to help with the development of an inclusive, diverse, and more equitable entrepreneurial ecosystem. And the second role we can really play is to help fill some of these business education gaps that we heard from our entrepreneurs. Overall, this report really validated the need and the use of our Ecosystem Navigator program. At Collider, we think a major role we can play is acting as a convener to bring together different voices in the entrepreneurial ecosystem to learn from each other. We really look forward to piloting and co-creating solutions to fill these needs with dedicated partners within the community. As far as our role at Collider goes, we're looking forward to developing an advisory board to help us with our Ecosystem Navigator program, to activating 3 Ecosystem Navigators by this fall time. In addition, we aim to incorporate more women and people of color in our storytelling efforts, as well as in our entrepreneurial education and business development panels as we move forward. We also look forward to co-creating solutions, especially for our underserved entrepreneurs and people who have been systemically left behind, along with key partners in the community, as well as to deepen our relationships with these sectors of our entrepreneurial ecosystem. We hope that these actions on the part of Collider and as the community help all of our entrepreneurs feel more connected in and increase their access to business development resources and tools to really scale and grow their business in Rochester. Thank you so much for listening in to us today, for reading this report, and thanks to all that you do in the community to support Rochester entrepreneurs. We again hope that this information helps to open up lines of communication so that we can all better serve entrepreneurs within our community.